Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. Today I want to review a bit of a collection of user-created cards that I've gathered over the past few months. Most of these are inspired right before the Whispers of the Old God expansion, and of course more recently in the weeks afterwards. So if you guys do want to check out, custom cards, some of the best stuff out there, there is Reddit Custom Hearthstone, and the best cards, most popular cards out of that Reddit, usually at the end of each week get posted on the Hearthstone Reddit. That's how I gathered most of these images. I don't know who the authors are for each specific one, but it's great to have the community contribute so many awesome creations, and it really is inspiring to see what is possible within the realm of Hearthstone, because it really keeps you optimistic about the future of card design and just the development of the game overall. So these are just some of the best, no particular order, that I really found profoundly interesting. So here we have Polymorph Devilsaur, the mage card, 3-mana secret. When a friendly minion is attacked, transform it into a 6/6 Devilsaur. So, there hasn't been any secrets released in Whispers of the Old Gods, and it's a bit of a shame because secrets are really cool. We're almost always at that stage where you really have no idea how to play around every secret, and with the fact that Standard keeps pushing out some secrets as time goes by, I think this notion does need to be continuously refreshed. So I would very much like to see a secret like this that has to do with countering a few interesting cards, let's say, as perhaps if you had like another secret that triggered off of a minion dying, you might want to play this to cover it up if you had like a weak minion on the board. So like secrets of synergies on other secrets just really sounds very cool. And we have Tiny Fin Fordring. So this is, Tyrion scaled down 4 times. A little bit more. He's a little bit of a weaker body, but it's a 2-mana 1/1 Murloc with Divine Shield, Taunt, and Death Rattle to equip a 1/4 Lights Justice. I talked about how Tyrion is one of the most OP cards in the entire game because generally if you scale a minion up, it's crazy insane. Like if you take any 1-drop, multiply its mana cost by 8 and its stats and abilities by 8, it's better than any other 8-drop in the game. But Tyrion is that card where if you scale it down, if you take Tyrion and scale it down by half, you actually have the most broken 4-drop in the game. Well, maybe not. 7/7s are pretty nice on turn 4, I've heard. So, but you get the idea. So a very, very small Tyrion is kind of a cool card, as it is on a similar power level of most of the early game cards, and just a cool effect, and I'd love to see another legendary Murloc personally. So a great creation here. And we have Evil Within. There's a 4-mana Warlock card. Transform all friendly Murlocs into random demons. And this is definitely one of those cards that plays, into multiple card types. I've played Murloc and Zoolock in the same deck. And I think some interesting cards like these could have really cool effects, really cool games. And I love to see these type of tribal cards. I think Hearthstone needs more tribal cards, especially ones with wild and ridiculous effects as this one. We have Short Fuse, so it is a Hunter's Secret. When the rope appears, deal 6 damage to the enemy hero and end their turn. So this is kind of what I was talking about with secrets, how it's very difficult to play around all the different secrets, and if you have so many options and so many secrets that could be played in that circumstance, you don't know which one is which, it becomes, kind of a crazy moment to figure it all out, and often you do reach the rope, and then you could have this other style of trigger on a secret. So really amazing, very creative work, and I'd love to see secrets that trigger off of the rope situation. This would be a great instance of one. And we have the Lazy Peon. There's a 1-mana 3/3, and the battle cry has it sleep for an additional turn. So it could have some synergy with a few other cards that draw 1-drops from your deck and that kind of stuff, and it's probably pretty good in a zoo deck, but overall it's just a very interesting card. The sleep mechanic, the fact that when you play a minion it can't do anything until your next turn, is something that is not really manipulated past just the base charge mechanic, which is again a mechanic that nobody really likes to begin with. So it's kind of interesting to see, the other side of that. You can make very powerful cards that could have this type of effect that would sleep for an additional turn or would sleep until the trigger happens. Some really, really cool stuff could happen, and I really hope Blizzard takes a look at expanding on this mechanic they already have in the game. Then we have Overestimated Knight. So it's an 8 mana 2/3, which is terrible, but it costs 6 less. So the idea of this card is to have cards in your deck that don't really hurt your deck, but improve your odds of winning jousts. Because jousting in Hearthstone is one of the most miserable experiences ever, because you just can't rely on it. There's just no way you can really make it work consistently. And while the mechanic itself has a cool theme, there are no mechanics or cards that actually support you designing a deck around jousts. Until a user came up with this one. This is an amazing way to do it, and I do hope that Blizzard pays attention. Maybe not just in this specific case, because they're probably not going to implement more jousters in the game, but in future cases, when you have a mechanic, you really need to have cards that actually support that mechanic, so you can use the cards that are new, that are interesting, that you want to play with, because you just got them from packs. So, kind of an important thing to keep in mind. And this one is kind of like a double card here. So Reinforced Armor destroys all of your armor, and for each armor lost, you shuffle a Plated Armor card into your deck. And Plated Armor, when drawn, you gain 2 armor. So basically, you double your armor. And this is a little bit broken, in my opinion. I think it's one of those combo cards that you can do when you have just a couple cards in your deck. So, Plated Armor, if you have like a lot of armor, but you have like 20 cards in your deck, it's going to be worth it like in 8 to 10 turns. But if you have like 2 or 3 cards in your deck and you have like 30 armor, well, that's just gaining 30 armor over the next 3 turns, really. So it can get ridiculously insane. And, I don't mind it too much. I think a Control Warrior meta is a meta I'd like to play in, as long as not every other deck is a Zoo or Face deck, which is right now. Okay. Then we have Dalaran Spellbook. So this is a mage weapon, and it is a 2 mana 0/3, and the Inspire draws a card and remove 1 durability from this weapon. Now, there's multiple reasons why I think this card has an amazing design. On one hand, it is a weapon that doesn't actually attack. It has secondary effects, which really is very good thematically for mage. It can be removed because it is a weapon, and really a spellbook for a mage should be considered a weapon. The other side of this that I really like is because there are weapon buffs in the game, and some of them are actually neutral cards, you can actually transform your Dalaran Spellbook into a weapon to attack things with. So there's a lot of mechanics that can be, surrounding cards like these to really enhance the gameplay and the possibilities that you can have with deck design in Hearthstone. So I've been kind of advocating for weapons for classes that currently don't have any, even though, even if you make them in forms like these, weapons that don't actually attack. This could be an amazing way to accomplish that. Then we have Illusion. So it's another secret. It's a 3 mana secret. When your turn starts, discover a new secret to replace this one. So the reason why I like this card, the reason why I like the discovery mechanics around secrets, is that you just don't know what to expect. If you've ever been on the other side of a discovered secret, you realize that you have to play around everything. And that just makes whatever secret you end up getting much more powerful. Because, if you think about the constructed format, when you're playing against a specific class, you generally know 28 cards of the deck, and that includes the secrets they're going to play. So when they play a secret, it's at most one of 2 options. And even though that can be a very powerful secret effect that probably synergizes with the rest of the deck, that may not really be much of a speed bump against all the opponents. But in this case, it really makes you think. It really highlights skillful play and very difficult decision making that I think really needs to be highlighted in future expansions of the game. So great design behind Illusion. And we have Morazan the Infinite. So it's a 9 mana dragon, 9/8, and the battlecry Death Rattle ends the current player's turn. So I really love cards that really manipulate the turn timer, or in this case just end the turn. So obviously when you play this, it's going to end your turn, so you want to make sure that you play it accordingly. But in some instances, and particularly playing around very interesting cards, you can actually have amazing turns. So this can be like a counter to Doomsayer. Now, Doomsayer doesn't need more counters, but I would say the game needs more Doomsayers. So if the game had more Doomsayers, you could have Morazan around and counter those. So if someone plays a Doomsayer and like freezes your board, you can play Morazan, which would end your turn, basically skipping your turn. But if your board is frozen, which is usually the case where you have a Doomsayer on the opposite side of the board, Doomsayer goes off, kills Morazan, and ends the opponent's turn as they draw their first card. So some very cool combos are possible with mechanics like these, and I do wish that Blizzard implemented more of them. And we have Vile Experiment. So it's a priest card. Merge all enemy minions into an abomination that has their combined health and attack. Now this wouldn't work all that well right now. Well, it probably work pretty well, but not as well as you think, because there's still a ton of like death rattle minions, a lot of minions that require to be killed 2 or 3 times still. Please, Blizzard, no more of those. Okay, we talk about cards that we want, but we do not want minions that need to die 3 times. Please stop making those. Please. Vile Experiment basically acts as a board clear, acts as a method of destroying their entire board, putting up one giant creature, and Priest generally does a pretty good job of dealing with single target large minion threats. So it's kind of like another combo board clear type of card that makes use of large minion removal that often doesn't work against decks where Vile Experiment would work very well against. So it's kind of like a synergistic card for the Priest class and the Priest decks, as well as another board clear. So I really love the design of this card. Then we have Sinister Trickster. It's a rogue epic, 1 mana, 1/3. If this is in your deck, your hero looks like a different class until a class card or hero power is used. So I love these type of cards that have effects that are passive towards the deck. You know, Magic the Gathering had a few of these cards that I thought were pretty cool, where if they were in your opening hand, it had an effect. But, you know, Hearthstone's a digital card game, so you can go far beyond that, and I'd really love to see Hearthstone do that. So you can have cards that work exactly like this, so you can kind of, you know, screw over your opponent trying to mulligan against you. But on the other hand, you know, it won't work too well in tournaments. But just the general concept of, if you include this card in your deck, this effect will happen. While those can seem like very powerful effects, you can have balanced effects. You can have, you know, both players start with an additional card in their opening hand, or both players start with 1 less card in their opening hand. Both players start with 5 less life, or 5 more life. You know, there's a lot of things that you can do, and it doesn't have to be, you know, one-sided. It can be very balanced with the current mechanics. We have Druid of the Waves. I'd love to see this card, but it's pretty OP. It's a 3 mana 4/3 Druid Pirate, and choose 1 to get a 1/3 weapon as a Druid, which would be very nice because you could, with your hero power, manipulate your attack for a 1 or a 2, or give it to your opponent. Now, giving your opponent a weapon seems like a bad thing, but it would overwrite their weapon, so it can double up as optional weapon removal, which is pretty damn insane. And I would kind of like that. I do think weapons are, you know, really, really overpowered in the current state of the game, and weapon removal is not interesting enough, but you have to use it, and you generally lose against classes that don't have weapons if you have it. So it's a very punishing, it's a very crappy way to deal with overpowered cards right now, and this is a great solution in my mind. Then we have 5 more minutes Executus. So we have a mage card, 4 mana in 5 turns, summon Ragnaros. Now, when your opponent prepares, like if you ever have Ragnaros in your deck, you know it's an absolute terrible play in a lot of cases, because your opponent just has a board full of 1/1s, or they have like a minion that would instantly kill it, or a few other one of those situations. So if you knew that it was coming many turns in advance, your opponent could prepare for it and would really lower the value of Ragnaros as a whole by a lot. But still, I think 4 might be a little bit too low of a cost. But in general, this effect will happen many turns from now is one that I think would really be welcome in Hearthstone. And we have Ogre Kripparrian. We got a 3 mana 4/2 pirate again, and battle cry. Discover a weapon, 50% chance to get the wrong card. So a lot of cool effects there, and the discovery mechanic is of course one of the favorite ones. And the Ogre mechanic being implemented to more than just attack sequences would be a very fun experience, I believe. And then we have Spike-Toed Boomerang, a 1 mana warrior card. Deal 1 damage to a minion twice. I'd kind of love to see this upgraded a little bit. You know, I think maybe 3 times is probably what we're looking for. We have a Raging Bull, 5 mana, 5/6 beast. When your opponent plays a minion, attack it. So you can have oversized minions, and it's kind of interesting that they have this mechanic where you know, your opponent can play minions to counter minions without having. It's like a reverse give your opponent's battle cry on their minions type of card. So really cool stuff. We have Build a Golem. It's a 2 mana 2/2 mech, and Battlecry discovers a spare part and casts it on this minion for 0. So you can have a very cool effect. You can have like a 2 mana 2/3 or a 2 mana 3/2 or a 2 mana 2/2 stealth. A lot of cool options, pretty balanced. Love the idea. And the last card of the video, we have Bibliothèque. We have the 1 mana mage card. Arrange all cards in your deck in alphabetical order. I just find this so incredibly awesome. I think this is my favorite card that I've seen since I did the last video one of these. And the reason I love it is you can design a deck on such strange parameters that would really essentially be effective if you had drawn these cards. So, you know, it's kind of like the Reno Jackson effect. It involves you completely redesigning a deck around a card, and if you did that, you could have some spectacular moments, some spectacular advantages as a result. I think the effect is really good, but I think I'd probably attach it to a minion just in case it'd be useless in the late game. I really hate cards that, you know, are really insane, really critical, but they're at the bottom of your deck, and when they are at the bottom of your deck, do absolutely nothing. So attach the effect on the minion, and we have quite possibly the coolest card ever made. But for now, that's going to be it. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the best user-created cards, number 3, and keep them coming, guys. You know, your efforts and your creativity, bring to the table, showing it to the public, really makes this possible and really keeps, you know, hardcore Hearthstone players a bit optimistic about what the future holds. So thank you, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.